Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
Coming up on the First Take podcast, it's the Thunder and the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals. So who wins the series? And what did the Pacers prove by beating the Heat Sunday? Plus, we have a full house as Andrew Wiggins and LaShawn McCoy join us in studio. The First Take podcast starts right now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Take. I'm Carrie Champion in studio with Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith. He is in San Antonio, home of Skip's Spurs. How are you, friend?
What's going on, y'all? How was your weekend, Skip, Carrie? How was y'all weekend?
Stephen A. Smith, I have a warning for you today.
Oh, boy.
You had better watch your mouth when it concerns me during this show, or I will have you arrested because I am the mayor of San Antonio. You know that, so you better be respectful of me on this show today.
Oh.
One phone call.
You know what the
and
sad part,
trouble,
you know what,
baby.
Carrie Champion,
yes,
you know
sir.
what the sad part about it is that he just said?
What is the sad part?
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right. I'm walking around San Antonio. Skip.
No,
Well,
seriously,
listen,
it's the truth.
You got one city. You got one city in America.
Hey,
Okay,
listen, I got a couple of tweets from some people saying we're expecting to see Skip back in San Antonio. So I'm assuming you'll be the better half while Skip is here representing. I like the dark rim Malcolm X rims you're wearing right now. All right, kids, let's talk about it. Over the weekend, you may have heard Kevin Love wants out of Minnesota. That is the question. Now that has us questioning how good is Kevin Love? That is the debate. Plus, we have several guests joining the desk. Top NBA prospect, I'll call him Mr. Vertical, Andrew Wiggins is here. Plus, shady Eagles running back LaShawn McCoy is here on behalf of the Madden cover vote. He will join the desk to talk about the Eagles. But first, you watched the game yesterday. Pacers Heat. It's always interesting to see what Pacers team will show up. And Sunday, it was Pacers of old in a good way. They beat the Heat 107-96. The Pacers shot the ball well, and their defense made a huge difference. Here's an interesting fact. Pacers outscored the Heat by 19 points with Roy Hibbert on the court.
I don't think we played a solid game all the way through. We had a lot of mistakes, and they took advantage of it. Obviously, a three-point shot is a big thing for our team, and tonight they weren't there. No one had it going. We had some really good looks. They didn't fall. We just got to do a better job executing in the next game.
We know we're playing against the champions, two-time champions, and they're going to come out and make adjustments, and it's not going to be nowhere close to game one, and we expect that. So everything we did tonight, it's got to be that much more in game two in order for us to move on.
All right, Stephen A. Smith, you heard the fellas there. What did the Pacers prove, in your opinion, with the win?
Well, they proved what they're capable of doing when they bring their A game. They can beat anybody in the game of basketball, and we all understood that right before the playoffs began. Unfortunately, the last 15 or so games of the regular season, they nosedived. And as a result of that, based on that and what we saw against Atlanta in the first round and against Washington in the second round, we were very, very disappointed in them to the point where we lost all belief in them, myself included. I'm guilty of that. As far as I'm concerned, they won a big game yesterday. They deserve a lot of credit for it. But at the same time, I have to see them do it in game two because I'm not sold on the Indiana Pacers right now. We all knew that they were an elite defensive team. But how anemic and pathetic they could look offensively really resonated. And so them being fired up and going up against the Miami Heat and the Miami Heat having to figure them out and what have you, getting 19 points from Roy Hibbert. I expected what we saw from David West, Paul George playing the way that he's been playing. Although we've been critical of him offensively, there is no question that defensively he has been nothing short of elite considering the kind of assignments that he's had to partake on, the challenges that he's had to embrace. He's answered the bell defensively. But yesterday he did something offensively as well. Now it helped that Chris Bosh was just off, missing all 5 of his 3-point shots, not successfully pulling Roy Hibbert and those boys away from the rim, shooting 6 of 23 from 3-point range. That's just 26%. We know how much this team relies on its 3-point shooting. They didn't have it yesterday. When you look at Mario Chalmers, he was anemic to say the least, shooting 2 of 9 from the field. Actually committed a flagrant 1 that should have been a flagrant 2. He's lucky he didn't get ejected. But in the end, Indiana had balance. They were moving the basketball. They were sharing the basketball. And they reminded us why we had spent most of this season looking forward to this encounter, Skip. When I interviewed the starting five along with the coach and I fantasized about an Eastern Conference matchup between these two teams, this was the Indiana Pacers squad I expected to see. The issue now is, do I have enough faith that it's something that they can continue to do throughout this series? The jury's still out on that. In order for them to make this a big-time series, as far as I'm concerned, to meet the expectations that we had, I believe they have to win Game 2 and go up 2-0. Otherwise, to me, it's still a wash. Miami will still take them out in 6.
The Pacers will not win Game 2 at home. To me, what happened yesterday to the Miami Heat was very simple and extremely fixable. I do not think the Miami Heat took the Indiana Pacers nearly seriously enough, and I cannot blame them for that because I couldn't take them seriously when we made our picks on Friday. Nobody was taking them very seriously after they became almost unrecognizable over the last, couple of months? So, Stephen A., to me, the Pacers' confidence has become extremely fragile, and they have to get off to a hot start. It's make it or break it for the Pacers, especially at home at the start of a game. So what happened yesterday? George Hill took a three-point shot. That was their first shot of the game, and George Hill, he made the three-point shot. It was a huge confidence builder for the home team. The crowd went wild. All of a sudden, the Pacers go up 7-0, and they never looked back. They never trailed in this game. And George Hill took and made 3 three-point shots in the first quarter. Paul George made 2 three-point shots in the first quarter. The scoring challenged Indiana Pacers scored 30 in the first quarter on the Miami Heat. They scored 25 in the second quarter for 55.5. Are you kidding me? Why? Because the Heat mailed it in on defense yesterday. I don't care what they say about strategy this or strategy. They mailed it in. They played dead-headed defense, especially on the pick and rolls. And all of a sudden, the Pacers, who averaged 96.7 points a game during the regular season, they scored 107 on the Miami Heat, who can play as good a defense as anybody left in these playoffs when they want to. They were not ready to yesterday. Now they're going to have 48 hours or more, heck, it's more than 48 hours until next game, to stew about this, to be asked and asked and asked to death about what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong. I think they will come out blazing in Game 2. I think they will take the early lead and they won't look back, and the fragile confidence of the home team will shatter quickly. That's what I see.
You know what, Skip? I've got a suggestion. I wanted to throw this by you because, as Coach Eric Spoelstra said, they would figure it out within the next 24 hours. They would make adjustments. Want to know what you thought about this. First of all, I think it's imperative that they activate Greg Oden. He's a big boy. You brought him here for this series. Let's face reality. The only reason why he's in an NBA uniform for the Miami Heat is because he's a 7-foot big body that can give you 6 fouls and defend, albeit for sporadic minutes in a game because obviously his chronic knee ailments that have pretty much decimated his career. I'm looking at the fact that you've got to activate Greg Oden, and I wouldn't mind on several occasions seeing a lineup that includes him and Birdman, or includes him and Udonis Haslem, with one or the other coming off the bench. Okay, 2 of them in there at the same time with LeBron, D. Wade, and a Ray Allen. That's the way I look at it. Obviously, you're going to implement the Mario Chalmers, the Norris Coles of the world, and things of that nature. But I think it's imperative to make sure that you neutralize Indiana in terms of not allowing their confidence to elevate when it comes to those big boys. I watched David West. He was a man. You know, he made sure you felt his presence, just the bodies that he was connecting with. He was putting his body on people. I think that's relevant. When you look at the fact that all 5 starters scored in double figures, 2 of them had 19. Another guy had 24, Paul George. George Hill had 15. Lance Stevenson had 17. I think it's one of those situations, Skip, where you have to make sure you don't allow Indiana's confidence to elevate because the big boys are being allowed to be big boys. You're going to have to do something to make the necessary adjustments in that regard, and I think it's something Miami should do.
Okay, Spoelstra was asked after the game about that and said that Odin has had some sort of injury setback and that he's not quite ready yet. And Spoelstra said he needs to practice hard a couple of more times this week. Maybe next week he would be ready to be activated. I don't know if he's right or not. I don't know if he's healthy or not. But I agree with your point. I expected him to be activated yesterday. He apparently is not ready to be. So what did they do yesterday? I thought that Spoelstra and maybe Pat Riley out-thought themselves. I thought they out-cuted themselves because, you know, they started Battier, which pushed LeBron onto a guy we both love, David West. David West had his way with LeBron James, made 6 out of 7 shots on LeBron yesterday. I want to see LeBron do what he wants to do. He wants to guard Paul George, mano a mano. So why not? I mean, just go with, you know, sort of the old expression, dance with what brung you. Let LeBron play Paul George. Let Haslam play in the middle. Do something. Do what you normally do. Don't bow to the Pacers.
I guess I get where you're coming from with that, and we agree because if you remember last year when the Indiana Pacers were playing against the Knicks, I was hooting and hollering about how I didn't want Carmelo Anthony anywhere near David West.
Yep.
Because even though Carmelo Anthony causes matchup nightmares for anybody because he's so surreal offensively, defensively, he has no business trying to defend a man-child like David West, who looks at guys that are not it doesn't matter that LeBron is 250 and built like a chiseled brick house. You have to be accustomed to taking that punishment. It's like a boxer, okay?
Yep.
Skip Bayless, if you're not, it doesn't matter how gifted you are. If you're not accustomed to getting hit, the second you get hit, it is going to rattle you in a way that it's not going to rattle most guys that are accustomed to that. Same principle with the big boys down low. You're David West. That's your home territory. That's your comfort zone. No matter how big LeBron is, he ain't bigger than David West. And David West is sitting there like, oh, welcome to big boy territory. And he's salivating at that opportunity just to bang bodies with them. That's going to take something away from LeBron. LeBron has no business defending him straight up. He needs to be put on Paul George. He can handle that assignment.
All right. So bottom line to this discussion, do you realize the home team Pacers took and made more free throws in the third quarter alone than Miami took and made for the whole game? What does that tell you?
Yeah.
Isn't that about effort, aggressiveness, just attacking the basket? One team played harder than the other.
Well,
don't tell me that the refs are biased against. They're not. They're just calling what they see. I didn't even see any bad calls.
I wasn't going there.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to the referee route because I get tired of that whining myself from any team. I heard it a lot during the last series in Los Angeles. I don't want to hear that. Referees, they make bad calls, but that happens every year. We understand it. It's par for the course. I guess for me, what I'm saying is when it's 37-15, I don't want to question Miami's effort because at times I saw their defense try to amp it up, particularly in the second half. I guess for me, though, again, playoff basketball, the game slows, Skip. And as a result, you start playing by big boy rules. It slows down. There's a lot more that's tolerated. There's a lot of banging that's going on. And when you've got 7'2" Roy Hibbert allowed to play 7'2", and you've got 6'10" muscle-bound David West allowed to play that way, then if you're Miami, you don't have that. You just don't. That's not your game. So you're not going to get a lot of these calls unless LeBron attacks the basket more, as does D-Wade.
Now, if my Spurs get a bad call tonight, you will hear about it from me tomorrow morning. Next question.
Game 2, Tuesday night in Indy, 8:30 Eastern, to the Western Conference Finals. Tonight, Thunder at Spurs. The Spurs had the best regular record in the NBA by 3 games and the best record on the road by 5. However, during the regular season, OKC swept San Antonio, but things have changed. OKC no longer has Serge Ibaka out for the rest of the playoffs because of an injury, a calf injury. Stephen A., all things considered, who wins the series?
I'm rolling with the Spurs in 6. If Serge Ibaka were healthy, I'd be picking OKC in 7. OKC could still win this series, but I think it would require KD Kevin Durant, the reigning league MVP, 4-time scoring champion, along with Russell Westbrook, averaging over 70 a game in this series in order for the Thunder to beat the San Antonio Spurs. That's just the way that I see it. Serge Ibaka is that pivotal, not just because he's a SWAT master extraordinaire. He can defend. He wreaks havoc against Tim Duncan and Thiago splitting these boys, but also because that 15 to 17-foot shot is something he's capable of hitting. You have to respect and honor it, and as a result, it pulls dudes away from the basket, and it really, really neutralizes San Antonio in the paint to some degree anyway. Plus, you know what? If you're Tony Parker, you constantly have to watch your back with somebody like a Serge Ibaka. But the fact that he's gone, I think, cripples the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I think it requires Kevin Durant to be Jordan-esque, to be, like LeBron was last year and the year before that against Boston with his 45-point, 15-rebound effort. I just think it takes something spectacular for OKC to win this series. I know that Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook is capable of it, but what I'm saying is they need to do it for 4 out of 7 games in order to pull it off, not to have 1 or 2 of them. They need to average over 70 points combined between the 2 of them in this series for 4 games in order for them to beat the San Antonio Spurs, and I don't believe they're going to be able to do that.
Before I make my pick, Kerry just said that Serge Ibaka is out for the playoffs. That's all I keep hearing. He's out for the playoffs. Do we know that for a fact? Because I'm not buying that completely. I know they announced he's probably out for the playoffs. I'm just here to remind you, there is a 4-day gap between Game 2 and Game 3 in Oklahoma City. Are you sure Ibaka won't be back for Game 3 in Oklahoma City? I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, to answer the question, Skip, I don't blame you for your cynicism, but this is the same team that Russell Westbrook got hurt last year.
Yeah, I know.
We thought he could go. They sat him out for the whole playoffs. And then he came back and had not 1 but 2 surgeries in the aftermath of that. So because if Oklahoma City's history is an indication, I have no reason not to believe them when they say that Serge Ibaka is out for the playoffs, because they seem to be the kind of team that will hold you out. Remember, Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook are 25. They're thinking long-term, Skip. They don't think about just now.
Okay, but remember, Russell Westbrook immediately needed surgery after what happened to him in Game 2 against Houston last year. Remember that? He immediately needed, he had a
but he thought he could go.
Torn medial meniscus. It was torn. He needed surgery. No calf injury is going to need surgery. It's hard to predict when it will bounce back. So I'm just saying I will believe it when I see no Serge Ibaka. And I agree with your points. Clearly, Serge has played huge against San Antonio. Just this year in the 4 games, all losses, by the way, by my Spurs, he averaged 4 blocks a game. He terrorized Tim Duncan in the paint. He terrorized Tony Parker at the rim. I remind you of that Game 4 in 2012. Remember that in Oklahoma City when he made 11 out of 11 shots? Seems like every one of them was some mid-range jump shot. But here's my prediction. I think this will still be a very, very close series. I'm not buying into all the, oh my God, no Serge hype here. I'm going to say my Spurs win this in 7 games, very close Game 7. I'm going to say Ginobili hits the game winner in Game 7 in San Antonio, because it's going to be that close, because the Thunder have that many Spurs killers left on this roster. Stephen A., you've watched these games. You watched these 4 games this year. My Spurs can't do much with Durant. I know Kawhi's had his moments on him, but if Durant wants to rise up and get 36 or 7, he'll get them. If Westbrook wants to rise up over Tony Parker, whoever tries to guard him, and get 35, he'll get them. And the number 1 Spurs killer, I don't know if people have locked in on this. You want to talk about who's been Jordan-esque against my Spurs? Reggie Jackson, who absolutely saved this Thunder season. If he hadn't done what he did in Game 4, remember that, against Memphis, when they could have gone down 3-1 at Memphis? Remember what he did in the 4th quarter and overtime? it sure wasn't KD or Westbrook. It was all Reggie. This kid plays huge in big games, and his scoring against the Spurs this year, in the 4 games, the first 3 he went 23, 21, and 27. Look out below, because they'll play that 3-guard offense, and it might cause Coach Pop to need 3 glasses of wine after some of these games, because they can just shoot the lights out. They always do against my Spurs. Caron Butler, the Spurs wanted him at the trade deadline. The Thunder got him. Watch him play big against the Spurs. And finally, I brought this up the other day, Steven Adams can play. Presti scored again in the draft. I don't know how he keeps doing this. He scored with Reggie Jackson down at like 24 in the first round. Steven Adams at 12. That's a sensational pick, because without Ibaka against the Clippers in Game 6 at L.A., remember what he did? He played 40 minutes and had 10 points and 11 rebounds. He's pretty good. They're not going to be gimmies in the lane for the Spurs anymore with him and Collison. They can both play. So I just say, if the Thunder get hot-handed, as they often do against the Spurs, it's going to be a shootout. My only advantage that I see, Stephen A., is the Thunder haven't played defense in the playoffs the way they usually do, and I don't know why, because Ibaka's been there most of the time, but they allowed 106.3 points a game in 6 versus the Clippers. 106, that's a lot. So I think these will be shootouts. They could both go up in the hundreds each game, and I'm just hoping my Spurs can just outshoot the Thunder from the perimeter, because it may boil down to that.
Well, I definitely think it's going to be a shootout. I'm certainly not implying that the San Antonio Spurs are going to neutralize Oklahoma City's offense. I know that what kind of points they're going to put up, and I believe in Reggie Jackson. I love his game, and I think that he's going to bring a lot to the table. But, Ken, I keep reminding you that come postseason time, you play by big boy rules. You have to have somebody in the paint, whether it's offensively or defensively. And even though I like Steven Adams a great deal, let's keep in mind the fact that it's one thing to come off the bench and do the kind of things that he's capable of doing. It's another thing to be that guy that's inserted into the lineup because Serge Ibaka is out, when you're on the floor for extensive minutes with some of the dirty tricks and the things that he employs. You're going to get caught far more often as a starter than you will coming off the bench, because you're going to be logging more minutes. And I don't think he's going to be able to be as effective as we're accustomed to seeing him be as a defensive presence and as a big man presence. And you have to remember, you're going up against Tim Duncan. And even though Tiago Splitter is no scrub, and I'm not trying to disrespect him in any way, but at the same time, the fact that he's playing alongside Tim Duncan is what helps him immensely. And so I look at it from that perspective, and I just say to myself, even though Oklahoma City can score on anybody, and I anticipate that they will, in the end, when you look at the bodies that San Antonio is going to be able to throw at them, the depth, combined with the fact that there's no Ibaka and your defense was a bit suspect compared to what we're accustomed to seeing anyway, I think all of those things spell trouble for Oklahoma City over a 7-game series. You could be right. It could go 7 games as opposed to 6. But I don't see Oklahoma City walking away with this series without Serge Ibaka. If Serge Ibaka was there, I was picking them to pick Oklahoma City, but not without him.
Are you sure you didn't go Spurs in 6 just so you can safely walk the streets in San Antonio today?
I'm not scared to walk the streets of San Antonio. They might have love for you because you're such a homer, but I don't disrespect the great Greg Popovich and this great organization, so I have nothing to fear. Not that I would fear anything anyway.
Yeah,
I ain't scared to walk any street.
Yeah, exactly. He's a gangster. According to ESPN and multiple reports, All-Star forward Kevin Love has made it clear to the Timberwolves that he intends to become an unrestricted free agent after next season and has no interest in a contract extension. And the Associated Press reported the Wolves are now open to trading Love before next season. Teams being mentioned include the Bulls, the Warriors, Lakers, Suns, Knicks, and Celtics. Love seems to have an affinity, however, for Chicago and Golden State, markets he believes are contenders. Now that Love's value is being discussed, Stephen A., we asked this question.
I'm going to take it.
Oh, you're going to take it first? Okay, you are. I'm sorry, my bad. Skip, tell me this. How good is Kevin Love in your opinion?
Stephen A. Smith, I've said this many times about Kevin Love's game. I really like his game. I don't love Love. I'm talking about, I don't see Kevin Love as a, if I can borrow your term, superstar. Not yet, anyway, and I don't think he ever will be. Kevin Love is not going to change your life and single-handedly lead your franchise to the promised land. But he is a very good piece to the puzzle because, as we know, he can be a double-double machine. I loved it that he increased his assists last year to 4.4 a game. That's extraordinary. I like it that he can shoot threes. He made 38% of his threes, and he attempted the 6th most threes in the NBA last year. Remember, we had Anthony Davis on All-Star Friday ahead of the weekend when we were in New Orleans. We asked him, who's your toughest cover? Yeah. Didn't even hesitate. Kevin Love. Wow, Kevin Love. He says, yeah, he goes out there and shoots those threes. I got to chase him out on the three-point line. Of course, Anthony was one of several people on that show who picked Portland to win the West, I remind you. But
he doesn't know what he's talking about.
I won't say anything. I'll leave that one alone. But to me, Stephen A., Kevin Love will put up great numbers, but the numbers that you don't see, the hidden numbers are, he's never, to me, been committed to playing on the defensive end of the floor. He's not a shot blocker. He blocked 35 shots in 77 games. Do the math on that, 35 and 77. And there's a reason why, even with a few nice pieces around him in Minnesota, Kevin has now played 6 NBA seasons and has yet to play his first playoff game. Never made the playoffs. Again, nice piece, but when I hear this hysteria about everybody suddenly wants Kevin Love, it almost elevates him into superstar status just on the hysteria alone, and he's not. I'm sorry.
Well, what I would ask you to pay attention to is who's pursuing him or who's coveting him. And I think that's why it doesn't make sense to you, because you're not looking at the big picture. You're isolating and compartmentalizing him, and you're stopping there. He averaged 12.5 rebounds this year. That's the lowest he's averaged since his rookie year. The last 5 years, he's averaged 13 or better. This dude rebounds. He averaged more than 26 points per game. When you look at the pieces that he had on the Minnesota Timberwolves, they were hanging tough. They were incredibly competitive during the regular season. I give them a lot of credit. I give him a lot of credit. Is he a superstar, Skip? No, I'm not trying to say that. But at the same time, he's definitely a piece any team contending should want. If he were on Golden State, it would upgrade them. If he were on the Clippers, it would upgrade them. If he were on Miami, it would upgrade them. If he were on the Knicks, it would upgrade them. If he was on Indiana, it would upgrade them. If he were in Chicago, it would upgrade them. This dude is a walking double-double, and I'm not talking about 10 points and 10 rebounds. This dude averaged 26. 3 of his last 4 years, he's averaged 20 or better. The one time he didn't average as much was because he only played 18 games in the season because he was hobbled and ultimately ended up missing the season before last. He deserves a lot of credit. I do think he's a star. Is he a superstar? No. But you don't put up those numbers on this level with that level of consistency with you being the primary option for an NBA franchise for nothing. Somebody goes out there and recognizes that they have to stop you. Now, if he were averaging 26 points and shoot 28% from the field, then that doesn't mean anything to me because all you're doing is shooting and jacking up shots. Something has to go in. But he shot 45% from the field. He shot 38% from the three-point line. So when this guy puts the ball up, it goes in the hole. And it goes in the hole with a degree of more efficiency than most NBA players. I can't ignore that, Skip. And when I look at the teams, whether it's a Chicago, whether it's a Golden State, whether it's a New York Knicks, whether it's a Los Angeles Lakers, the list goes on and on. It does not matter. Here's the reality. When Kevin Love shows up on your team, you are better. And you are formidable. And if you're talking about putting him with somebody who's a superstar offensive player, a Kobe Bryant, a Carmelo Anthony, a healthy Derrick Rose, what if it were Kevin Durant? What if he were on the Clippers with Chris Paul and those boys? What if he was in Golden State? Okay, with a Steph Curry and a Klay Thompson and a Draymond Green. Are you kidding me? The Golden State Warriors would have beat the Clippers, I can tell you that much. If that crew that they have had Kevin Love, the Golden State Warriors are playing right now. Right now. So make no mistake about it, it's not something that can be ignored. Again, I'm not going to say superstar, but he is a guy that is worth all the noise they are making about him because he is going to elevate a franchise wherever he ends up going.
Okay, but I think you're missing my point. I get your point about Golden State or the teams that could be contenders because they have their superstar in place, quote unquote.
Right.
But let's talk about Boston. Do you think that Kevin Love could be the single-handed difference maker, the next Larry Bird for the Boston Celtics? I don't. I'm sorry. Do you think if the Knicks lose...
But he could get him to the playoffs because you see how weak the East is.
Okay. And
he
needs to be in the East, I think, because I think he's getting sick and tired of missing the Western Conference playoffs. Okay, back to your Knicks. If they do lose Carmelo, let's say to the Bulls or wherever, if they lose Carmelo, do you think they can rebuild around Kevin Love? I don't, as far as becoming a contender around Kevin Love. Okay, that's my point. You say he would upgrade anybody. Well, but the upgrade helps more when you're already a contender. So if you take Golden State, and let's say they package up David Lee and Klay Thompson and Harrison Barnes. It might take those three to get him out of Minnesota right now. Would that make them? Would that make them an odds-on favorite?
I'd give up 2 of the 3.
I don't think so.
I'd give up 2 of the 3.
Okay.
I like David Lee a lot, but I'd give up.
Yeah, I would too.
I'd give up a David Lee and a Barnes, or a David Lee and an Iguodala. I'd give that up for Kevin Love.
I would give up Klay Thompson.
I want to hold on. Well, let me tell you, but you're looking at Klay Thompson as an individual talent. I'm looking at how he gels with Steph Curry.
Okay.
I don't think you mess with that kind of chemistry. So that's the only reason. As an individual talent, I get where you're coming from. But the chemistry that you have in a backcourt is not something you play with when you have it. So I would look to give up the David Lees and one of the small forwards to keep my backcourt intact rather than giving up one of the backcourt members.
Okay, but all of a sudden Golden State would become defensively challenged in ways they haven't been before.
They are now.
Well, I don't know.
You don't know
they
about
are
that.
now. And but again, you get rebounds. You get rebounds. And by the way, if he went to New York and you kept Melo again, if you got a star there, Kevin Love.
Okay, now you're good.
With the Dallas Cowboys on the clock with the 16th pick and Johnny Manziel steady sliding on draft night, many thought Manziel could be a Cowboy. But Dallas tight end Jason Witten said this about that possibility on draft night. I think he's a good player and he'll have a lot of success in the league. But I think for us and the commitment to Tony, I've said it throughout our entire careers, I think he's an elite quarterback and he's going to bring us a championship here. Witten went on to say if they drafted Manziel, Tony would not have a problem with that because Tony is very confident. According to the Dallas Morning News, the Cowboys are concerned about Romo's 2 back surgeries. Stephen A. Smith, from what we know now, did the Cowboys make a mistake passing on Manziel?
I personally think they did. Obviously, they've got a bevy of needs, and we understand that. But at the same time, you do need somebody who's box office. Even though the Dallas Cowboys have everything and they need somebody box office less than anybody else in the NFL, the fact that they've been out of the playoffs for 4 straight years, I think it's one of those situations where their ineptitude, their deficiency, the moribund franchise that they've regressed to in terms of football, not business, not hype, because they got that market cornered. But when it comes to actual effectiveness on the football field, as far as I'm concerned, it's laughable that they are so relevant. It would not have been if they drafted Johnny Manziel. In my estimation, considering the fact that Tony Romo's health is questionable, for Jerry Jones to place so much faith in it, I think that in all seriousness, people have to realize that's part of the problem with the Cowboys. Players look and they see the way Tony Romo is coddled and protected. And it rubs guys the wrong way. I think you have to remember when you look at, you just look at these guys, think about DeMarcus Ware and these others and what they said when Tony Romo got his money, Skip. $108 million, $55 million guaranteed. Did anybody say congratulations, woo-hoo? Nope, nobody did that. They said now he's got to go out and prove his worth. This is what they said about a guy who is now entering his 9th year as a starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys and has exactly 1 playoff victory to show for it. That is abysmal. It is just that simple. And so when you sit there and you place your faith in this guy, and we're not even talking football, we're talking sheer health. This is a back issue, okay, in the sport of football, where blindside hits are the norm, particularly for a quarterback. For this to be an issue and for you not to make sure that you had a quarterback coming out of the draft to lean on, to me, is just showing an extra concerted effort to coddle, to baby, to protect, to pacify Tony Romo. And that has proven to be ill-advised in the past, and I see no reason why it's not going to be proven to be ill-advised in the future.
I have to amend what you just said. The truth is, this was an effort to protect, pacify, coddle Jerry Jones. Jerry protecting Jerry. Because, look,
okay,
for Jerry Jones to take Johnny Manziel at the 16th pick a week ago Thursday night, Stephen A., you would have to publicly admit to making the biggest mistake you've ever made. You gave Tony Romo a year ago a 6-year, $108 million contract. And I'm not being hypocritical about this. This isn't 20/20 hindsight. I said at the time, no, it's wrong. And Jerry proudly gave him, what was it, $55 million guaranteed. Well, now you've committed. You have made your bed, so to speak. You were in bed with Tony till death do you part, at least 6 more years of Tony, as you have to prorate against the cap, the $55 million guaranteed. You're right. They have so many other needs that how could I condemn Jerry on draft night for passing Johnny Manziel? Because you made an unfixable mistake with Tony Romo. You can't get out of it. If you cut him, you have to keep taking the hits on the cap of the guaranteed money you gave him, and it would cripple your franchise for the next couple of years. So how could I justify that? Do I think that Johnny Manziel will prove to be a better quarterback than Tony Romo? Absolutely I do. A more successful quarterback. Johnny has intangibles, winners' intangibles, Tony never thought about having. Tony Romo, at heart, is still an undrafted free agent from Eastern Illinois. Johnny Manziel was a legend in Texas high school football, won a state championship in high school football, won a Heisman Trophy in his first full year of starting as a redshirt freshman at Texas A&M in the Southeastern Conference. Those are credentials that Tony never had. And I think in the end, against Peyton Manning, when it's, 48 all, Tony turns back into that undrafted free agent. He doesn't have that kind of confidence to make the play to win the game. So, do I want Johnny on? Yeah, I want him, but once you've committed to Tony Romo, how can I change my opinion of that? I don't know how to.
Well, I don't know why you don't know how to, Skip, in the sport of football, when you watch Tony Romo not get hit, fling the football against the Washington Redskins, and turn his body and contort his body as if somebody just hit him with a rib or a kidney shot and he don't know how to stand up straight. And then we come to find out that he's got back issues that require back surgery.
Yeah.
I see that as the perfect opening for Jerry Jones to have covered himself by drafting a quarterback. Now, again, those that cover the Dallas Cowboys will tell you, and you read the reports, they had a bevy of other needs. We understand why Jerry didn't make this pick. They were proud of Jerry because, Jerry didn't, resort to being typical Jerry and drafting splash or acquiring splash and pizzazz, and instead he went for substance to address other needs, particularly on the offensive line, to protect the Tony Romos of the world. I get it. And I understand it, and they would know better than me. What I'm saying is, if quarterback is your most important position, the ride or die philosophy that one may hold with Tony Romo, to me, makes no sense when he's coming off of back surgery. If we can look at NFL players and say, well, you know what, 2,000 carries is usually the number as a running back, and then as a result, you're on your way down, we're going to cover ourselves. Or, you're an offensive lineman and whatever stipulations, whether you're a linebacker or somebody in the secondary, or you're a football player and you get over the age of 30 and the downward slope starts to kick in then. They've got all of these unwritten rules and understandings that dictate how they go about formulating a team for the future. Well, to me, look at the quarterback position, which is the most important position on the field. If your star quarterback has a back problem, isn't that the perfect excuse to bring on another quarterback? I think it is.
Okay, but Jerry keeps saying, and along with his son Stephen, Tony's going to be just fine. Reports are he's just right on schedule. Then we read something over the weekend. Might be a little dicey for training camp. So I don't know. I'm with you.
Well, Skip.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll tell you this. If attendance at basketball games is an indication, Tony Romo's just fine. Because I've seen him. He was at the Clippers game the other day. So Tony Romo, if showing up at the basketball games and sitting in your seat is what qualifies as healthy enough to play football and you're just fine, Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones are absolutely right. But last time I checked, once you put on that helmet and those pads, all right, and you step out on that football field and you get popped, that's when we know whether or not you're okay.
By the way, I read some graphic from our ESPN stats and info department here that Romo, the last, 4 or 5 times he's gone to a game of somebody else's, they've lost. So isn't that classic Romo? Well, seriously. And then Stephen A.
It is.
It is. Okay. And then think about, we keep talking about Manziel's it factor, and it's hard to define what it is, but things just keep happening around him. So he sends a text to his potential quarterback coach in Cleveland, the guy he hit it off with, Dal Loggins, that included the phrase, "Let's wreck the league together." Johnny did not intend that to become public. Dal Loggins made it public. Now there are T-shirts jumping off the rack in Cleveland because everybody wants a wreck the league T-shirt. That's Manziel. That's what he brings to you. He doesn't even try, and all of a sudden he has a catchphrase. He's going to wreck the league. Now, will that haunt him next year? You could argue, but I don't think it will because I think he'll be able to back it up. And all I know is, as a Cowboy fan, if the Browns are playing opposite the Cowboys, I may be watching me some Browns next year. Seriously. Well, how can I not? How can I not watch Manziel and see what he does?
That's true. Box office, as you say.
That's assuming he plays.
Well, and we don't know about that.
That the owner doesn't get in the way.
He's a big part of what they do because defensively he's everywhere, blocking shots, and in the last few years he became a big threat, knocking down those 18, 17 footers. So it's quite a loss for them. Hopefully we use that on our advantage, and we'll see how it goes.
To their advantage. Thunder Spurs series starts tonight minus Ibaka. He's missed only 3 games over the past 3 regular seasons and none in the playoffs. But now he's out for the remainder of the playoffs, allegedly. Let him tell the story.
Yeah. You added that in. I'm impressed.
I did, because it's alleged, according to you.
Yeah, no, according to Sam Presti.
According to Sam Presti, Skip Bayless, Spurs expert. We're going to turn to our coach. Coach, how are you?
I'm great.
All right, you missed Stephen A. You didn't get a chance to hang out with him?
Stephen A., we never cross anymore.
No, he's too big for you.
He's too big time.
He's too big for us.
I've heard
Please.
that. It's the glass.
Never that, Coach. You know better. You know better.
Yeah.
So here's the coach. Here's a question, Coach. How much will the Thunder miss Ibaka?
I think it's a bigger window than I would like it to be. If I was Scotty Brooks right now, I'd be nervous because I think the player that scares San Antonio is Ibaka. And it's not necessarily his offense. I think Scotty Brooks has options to figure out how to score points. Mm-hmm. The option he doesn't have is now Tony Parker has confidence of getting to the rim, getting into the paint, which he is the best. He makes this team go. His energy, his penetrations, his passing, his performance is high-level importance to San Antonio. What Ibaka also does, it takes away the role three-point shooter. Because Ibaka has the ability to give the confidence to they don't have to help. So if Parker goes in there, they let Perkins and Ibaka take care of it, then their wings can cover the 3-ball. Now, if they have to compensate and come closer and help more and take Parker out, they're going to have make an option maybe. Take Parker out or take the 3-ball out, as where with Ibaka, they could do both.
Stephen A.
Well, Coach, I totally agree with you, and I think I was alluding to that earlier, because if you're San Antonio, you can attack, more. You could just be considerably more aggressive because you don't have Serge Ibaka back there to worry about. Skip was making a point about Adams and how he could be a difference maker because he's no scrub. He's physical, and he's proven that he can play. But I think that it's an entirely different matter when you have to go in there and replace Ibaka, and you've got to log significant minutes, and there's no backup for you like you were for Ibaka. I think those are the kind of things that'll work against Oklahoma City on the defensive side of the floor in this series, and I think that'll ultimately be their doom.
Coach, to your point, I have made this point numerous times on this show. Serge Ibaka terrorizes both Duncan and Parker. He's the one player in this league, to me, that has made Tim Duncan look his age this year and other year, the past years. And Tony Parker is constantly looking over his shoulder when he gets in the lane. And yeah, it's intimidating for the Spurs. It's the one player that intimidates them. Here's my point, and the more I think about this, the more I'm buying into it. Just because Sam Presti announced a year ago that Russell Westbrook was gone for the playoffs, now we're taking it to the bank that he has announced that Serge Ibaka is gone maybe for the playoffs. I'm not buying this one. Russell Westbrook had a torn medial meniscus that immediately needed surgery. Remember the Houston game, too. This time, Ibaka's got a calf. Well, they can be very problematic, and they can linger, as you well know, for 6-8 weeks. But in this case, there is a 4-day gap between Game 2 in San Antonio on Wednesday night and Game 3 in Oklahoma City on Sunday night. I'm looking for Willis Reed to come hobbling out of the locker room here. Seriously, I won't be surprised at all. I will believe it when I see that Serge is out for the playoffs. So look what could, let's say Oklahoma City wins one of these two games, which they easily could, and then they go home, and all of a sudden Ibaka shows up. Wow. And all of a sudden the crowd goes, that crowd can go crazier than any crowd in this league. You don't think that would be a huge boost for them right on schedule?
I think the thing that Oklahoma City needs is Ibaka, even for 10 or 15 minutes, could help this team. Right now, you understand, Perkins is not a 30-minute player. He's been playing 15 to 25 minutes all year long, and so Adams has got to back up Perkins. So I don't think you're going to see Perkins and Adams on the court very much together. I think Nick Collison is the glue guy, the roll guy, the tough guy that's going to play a lot of minutes. But what's going to happen when Perkins is off the court and the matchups are kind of goofy right now. I mean, it's going to be very interesting because San Antonio needs to put Leonard on Durant.
They do, and they will.
And who is going to cover Westbrook?
I don't know.
Okay, that's the way. So the way that San Antonio can maneuver is take Leonard and put him on Westbrook, and Diaw is the only guy that can cover, I think, Durant up front with the bigs. Because I think in the end, Durant's going to play a lot of 4 in this series, and that's their favorite lineup.
They will,
That's the energy lineup they like to
with
play.
Reggie Jackson.
But is there enough defense? Is there enough rebounding? Is there enough glue to that when Durant? Because you can't play I don't think you can get away with Collison and Durant playing 4 and 5. I don't even know who Oklahoma City is going to finish with. Who is their finishing big guy in this series? I mean, is it going to be Perkins?
I think Steven Adams. They finished against the Clippers with him,
and
he was really good.
I mean,
they won the game.
You're going deep into an inexperienced situation.
He's a rookie,
so
I know.
It's going to be interesting.
But that 3-guard lineup, or however you want to say it, with Reggie Jackson in the game, he is the biggest Spurs killer of all. And I've never said that the Spurs were a great collection of spectacular athletes. I never said that, did I? So how do you guard those 3? I don't know, because one of them is going to get off on you. One of those 3, and it's usually Reggie Jackson. Have you seen his numbers against the Spurs?
That's 21, over 20 points a game. The length of Oklahoma City's perimeter people, I think, bother San Antonio's offensive players. I think Parker is going to have Westbrook, Cephalosa, and Jackson. One of those guys is going to cover him every possession of this series. And that length is probably, if I could play a long guy on Parker, I think that's a benefit as a coach. You might be able to challenge his jump shot. You might be able to disrupt his jump shot because of length.
I think Coach Carl's making a case for the Thunder to win this series. Do I hear that?
I think
listen. They can win because their offense is that explosive. But if you're making a prediction, how could you conceivably pick anybody, even Oklahoma City, to beat San Antonio without a weapon like Serge Ibaka? That's the whole point. You know what KD and Russell Westbrook bring to the table. But Serge Ibaka, without Serge Ibaka and you're going up against San Antonio, I don't think anybody picks that series, considering Serge Ibaka, how important he is against San Antonio.
Stephen A., are you sure Ibaka's not going to play? Are you sure of that? Because I'm not.
No.
Thank you.
Well, I'm just going by what they said. Look, if they say he's out for the playoffs, then until I see him play, I'm assuming he's out for the playoffs.
I think it's about Tony Parker.
Okay.
How healthy is Tony Parker? How efficient
I
is Tony Parker?
think he's okay. I think he's healthy, but efficiency is another question.
Skip Bayless?
If Tony's healthy.
Okay, can you give us your prediction?
Yeah, because that's what he's getting at, and I'm going to ask.
I think it's a 7-game series.
Okay.
I think it's going to go back and forth. And, you know, San Antonio, can they find a wild card in Ginobili? Can Bellinelli help them? Is Diaw going to play well? San Antonio relies upon their bench to be successful. And I don't know where that's going to be right now. But Parker is their engine. Duncan is their rock. Ginobili is the wild card off the bench. But I think it's a 7-game series.
And who wins?
Because it goes to San Antonio, because it's in San Antonio,
so
history says San Antonio wins it.
Spurs in 7. We finally got it out of them.
Yeah.
And you have planted a seed of doubt. You know that.
I did.
Okay.
And I should have.
All right. The alleged missing Ibaka. We never know.
What makes the Indy 500 the greatest spectacle in racing?
Back home again.
We are green. Everyone in the grandstands are on their feet.
You're now a winner of the Indianapolis 500, my friend.
The Indianapolis 500, Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on ABC.
All right, even before the college basketball season began last fall, Andrew Wiggins was considered the #1 overall pick in the 2014 draft. In his freshman year at Kansas, he averaged 17.6 rebounds per game, still remains at the top of Chad Ford's big board. We welcome to the desk Andrew Wiggins. I wish we had a clapping sound track for you. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Stephen A, he's in the house. Say hello.
Yes, what's going on, big time? I got to get right to it. Let me ask you this question, because before the season even began, you put it out there that you had every intention of being one and done.
Yeah.
Obviously, there were a lot of expectations that came along with such proclamations. How was this year for you, and do you believe you lived up to the expectations you yourself set for yourself?
I think I had a good year. We accomplished a lot as a team. But as for the hype, I think I lived up to my own expectations, my own goals. I just having a successful year. But the hype that was portrayed by the media, no. I don't think anyone could live up to that. But I think that for the goal I set for myself, I think I did a pretty good job.
So, Andrew, you had some sensational games this year, and you had some so-so games. You ended on a down note with your 4 points against Stanford, 4 turnovers. How much did that college system at Kansas camouflage your NBA talent, do you think?
I'm not too sure. Some games it showed more than others. Other games it didn't show.
Did you feel like you had to sacrifice some of what you could do at the next level for the sake of the team at Kansas?
I would say I didn't have to do as much, because I was playing with really good players. Everyone on my team could score. Everybody loved to rebound, play defense. They're all energetic. Yeah. So I think I was just full of a good group of guys.
So we talked earlier about you being at the top of Chad Ford's big board, so let's stay there, being at the top of that theme. You skipped the combine, but you still made news, because take a look at this photo. Your vertical measured at 44 inches, and then you posted this on Instagram. 26,000 likes so far and counting, went viral. Surprised by that?
Yes.
Both. At 44 inches, you're surprised by that? No.
No. I've done it before, so.
Oh, is this what you do?
Yeah. It's in my genes.
Okay, all right.
I got it. Andrew, listen, I think that you got a tremendous upside. I think you're going to be tremendous on the next level. However, I think about you, but I also think about Jabari Parker. And I wonder where you think you compare to the guys coming out in this class with you. We've heard Skip loves Embiid, your teammate. I love Jabari Parker. Everybody loves you. Chad Ford's got you #1. Where do you have yourself?
I think for me, Jabari or Joel, I think we all want to go #1. But it's not the end of the world if we don't. Because there's been a lot of great players that ended up to be like the best ever. And great Hall of Famers that never went #1 and still had a great career. So.
Hold on, Andrew. Hold on, Andrew. You on First Take, bro. Let me be direct.
Yeah.
I asked you, where do you see you compared to these other guys coming out of this class with you talent-wise? Where do you think you rank? Like you said, you put your own expectations out there.
Yeah.
This is not the media hype. I'm asking you, where do you see yourself?
I always put myself #1 above anybody else. That's just me. Okay. I got a lot of confidence in myself. So.
By the way, before we leave the 44-inch vertical, was that from a standing start, or did you get up ahead of steam?
Like take like one step.
One big step. Okay. Well, that's still extremely impressive.
Is that impressive?
Yeah,
okay.
extremely.
I'll take it.
Okay, so which NBA player does your game most closely resemble right now?
I really don't know.
Who's your favorite?
My favorite, KD.
Is KD?
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
But it's not because you pattern your game after him. He's just your favorite player.
Yeah, he just excites me the most. I just respect his game so much. On and off the court, he looks like a great guy. Sounds like a great guy. And on the court, he's just a killer. He just nothing he can't do really. He can score all inside out. He can do everything.
So you're obviously picking the Thunder over the Spurs?
I've been rooting for them for the last 3 years to win it all. Yeah.
So this is the year.
This is the
even
year.
without Ibaka.
You want to make a pick?
I still believe it.
Okay.
Wait, so you're going with OKC?
Yeah.
In what? 6, 7, 4?
6 or 7.
And 6 or 7, all right. Well, good luck to you. We really wish you the best. Good luck in the draft, and
thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Our next guest, ladies and gentlemen, rushed for more than 1,600 yards, leading the NFL in rush yards last season, and in the process set an Eagles single-season record. LaShawn McCoy is here on behalf of the Madden cover vote, which is currently in the quarterfinals, and you face Andrew Luck. So really quickly, folks.
Oh, that's a mismatch.
It's LaShawn McCoy versus Andrew Luck. If you want to vote for him, go to ESPN/Madden vote. Make your pick. Obviously, you want them to pick you.
Right, pick me.
Welcome to First Take. We appreciate having you here. Let's get right to it, shall we?
Okay.
So you're on record for supporting former teammate Deshaun Jackson. You said you were surprised that they let him go. Some distance has been put between the situation. Now I want to know what's your take on it.
Well, I think now, he's in Washington. He's working with his team, and I'm in Philadelphia working with my team. So you don't really see a big difference. We're working hard together. We made some new moves with getting Sproles. And also in the draft, picking up some wide receivers. So you don't really get to see it as much as I thought it would be an issue. My first initial thoughts were, we lose one of our top players in the NFL, a speed guy who's been so productive in our offense. This year was his best year, so that was more of me being surprised. But I think now, he's with RG3 working hard, so you don't get to see it as much. He's more worried about his thing, and we're worried about our thing.
Stephen A.
Shady, good. It's good to see you, bro. It's good to see you. Let me say this.
Good to see you.
No doubt. Let me say this to you. Losing Deshaun, losing Michael Vick, they still got you. They still have Nick Foles. I'm wondering, what do you have to say about the culture that exists with the Philadelphia Eagles? There seems to be some type of change taking place. I want to know if it's cool with you. Are you comfortable with it? Do you like the direction this franchise is going in with some of the moves it has made?
Well, one thing with Coach Kelly is he wants to win. That was obvious in Oregon. So whatever it takes for this team, he wants to win. Going in the direction of moving Deshaun Jackson and Mike Vick, he must have felt like that was the way of winning. And then you bring in Sproles, where we're doing so many things in the backfield together. So I don't really judge the decision-making from the front office, from Howie or Chip, because I support them. And I know they'll do whatever it takes to win games. And that's what really matters.
Is it fair to say that you have suddenly found yourself as the leader of this football team now that there's no Deshaun, no Vic? I mean, in star power and sort of face of the franchise, I think it's you.
I would say so, but I think like a guy with Nick Foles, man, the type of talent he really has. Yeah. Nick is good, and he's so new. I don't think that people can really appreciate him because he's so new. He can play. I think when you move a guy like Michael Vick, and Michael Vick can still play. I don't know what people think, but he still can play. Without injuries, Mike is the guy. You know, so if you move a guy like Michael Vick and you put Nick Foles in the picture to start, he must be doing something good. And playing with Nick, man, and his leadership, being so young, and you really see this year, he's the guy. He's the real deal.
But it's subtle to me and not dynamic in Foles. I see you're the fiery guy. Your body language is the team feeds off you more than it does him. It seems like.
I would say so as far as on the field. I'm one of the guys who I come in the locker room and I'm loud. You know, I talk to the guy we just signed yesterday, to the first rounder. You know, so I'm always involved with everybody. And on the field, just the way I play, my style, from cutting, spinning, all that type of stuff is excitement. You know, so I think we all have different roles on our team. You know, mine is more the way I play the game. You know, it can really relate to other guys. Where Nick is more a leader as far as making the right decisions, you know, saying the right things. He's a quarterback. You know how to quarterback that type of role.
Stephen A.
At the beginning of this season, we all know the controversy that existed involving Riley Cooper. How tough did that make things for you guys at the beginning of the season, and where is it now?
Oh well, man, we're long past that. That's so old.
Right.
I mean, Coop, he said what he said, and he's made a mistake with that, and like we all do, we talked about it.
Yep.
You know, I look at Riley Cooper, you know, the same way I did before he made the comment. There's times where I may say things that I didn't mean, and everybody, coaches included. You may say things we don't mean, and maybe because you're angry. But after that, man, you know, Coop, he's a great teammate. You know, we gave him an extension, a nice contract. He'll be here for a while, so we're ready to roll. We're actually past that.
Okay, let's flip around the Deshaun issue. Now that he's the enemy within your division,
right?
He is. How much more of a threat does Deshaun make the Redskins to the Eagles with Deshaun?
That's a good question. Well, it's always a tough matchup. You know, against them guys, a division game. And in the past couple years, we've been owning the division, so that's always a tough matchup with us. But I think putting Deshaun on that team, a little more fire for sure. Offensively, I thought they were pretty good with a good running back and RG3, a healthy RG3.
Yeah.
And then you give them Deshaun Jackson, by far the best deep threat in the game. So they'll be ready to play. You know, the thing is we just got to contain them and put points up. And that's something we do well.
Stephen A.
LaShawn, are you the best running back in football?
Yes, sir.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's very honest.
You believe that? Even with Adrian Peterson still playing, you still believe that?
You know, my brother argues with me all the time. He's always trying to make me play harder. You know, I say I'm the best. He says, the Adrian Peterson, did he retire? So the thing is just, you know, I look at football, you know, I look at the last 3 years of everything. I think AP has been the best back for so long, and he's been doing it for so long. That's why he automatically gets the best running back. But the last 3 years, I've been all pro first team twice. I think I never leave the field. I block, I catch. You know, I never leave the field. I don't have anybody do my job. I do it myself. And tons of credit goes out to Adrian Peterson. I'm a big fan of his, for sure. But I feel I'm the best.
Okay, you've been very honest with us about all these previous questions. Now, put this one in perspective. Earlier during the season last year, I tweeted something kind of harmlessly about Knowshon Marino. You remember this?
Yeah.
I know you do.
I'm honest now. So
okay, here we go. And it was just a positive tweet during the Denver-Dallas game. Knowshon is killing Dallas. Remember that?
Right.
And you retweeted me, but you added ahead of it, Knowshon sucks.
Right. Yeah.
Okay? And I know why you did it, but you didn't speak about it there during the season. Now put it in perspective for us.
Okay, well, what happened actually was you said something like, Peyton Manning's is playing okay, but Knowshon's is ripping it off. Now, we came off a game, so I was really just answering one of the things when you're speaking out loud and you're thinking in your head. So
don't hit send, or
did you feel like that?
Well, when I said it, I mean, I don't think he's that good, but I shouldn't have tweeted that. I was just thinking out loud. You know, it's one of the things where you send it and you shouldn't have, and you're thinking of something in your head. And you're
so in other words,
but I mean,
so in other words, that's how you feel. You just shouldn't have tweeted it.
Right.
Okay, but I remind you, and you know this full well, Knowshon Marino went 12th overall in that 2009 draft.
Right.
You went 41 spots later. You went 53rd in the second round of the draft. And I'm sure that has motivated you because clearly at this point you have been much better than he was as the 12th overall pick.
Yeah. I would say so. I think every player, when you go through that type of phase, you want to prove yourself. I remember having conversations with Arian Foster about it, where we were in the combine together. We talked about it. Then we met here actually for interviews, and he was talking about how that made him work so much harder, going so late and not going at all.
Well, he didn't get drafted. Yeah.
So somebody like me, for sure, just seeing them guys go before you, and then you play these teams, you play these guys, and it's night and day who's better. It's night and day who has a better game. So, yeah, for sure.
Good for you.
Yeah, Skip actually said Noshan is killing the Cowboys. That's what you were like, not so much.
And the thing is, I know Skip, so I'm like, what is Skip talking? I know he's always on point, because I'm a fan, and I know he's always has his stats.
Not always.
Majority of the time. When y'all go back and forth.
Always. Let him give him some props. Right. Go on.
It just was mind-blowing to see that he would tweet that. But
mind-blowing, Skip.
He was killing them at that moment.
At that moment.
Now, he doesn't kill everybody every week. Yeah. And by the way, he was kind of scrambling for a free agent deal, which is why your position has been devalued in this league, as you well know. And he didn't get that much money to me to go to Miami.
Right.
All right.
You've seen it.
Yeah, I did. There you go.
LaShawn McCoy, ladies and gentlemen. He is in the quarterfinals for the Madden cover vote against Andrew Luck. Again, go to ESPN.com.
He will kill Andrew Luck.
/Madden vote, and you will kill Andrew Luck, allegedly. He's always on point, right?
Let's hope he's right.
This first one time he may be right. Be sure to tune in to NFL Live on Thursday, May 22nd.
That's the new promo for First Take.
Skip is always right.
Yep.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Skip is always right.
LaShawn McCoy.
He's always right sometimes.
Thank you for joining us, and I appreciate it. Having fun with these fellas.
I believe the things that we didn't do great today, we would do better in game 2, and then it'd be another challenge. So, like I said, this is the first game. They drew the first blood, and we got to come and figure it out. We are a confident team. We feel that we can win here, but we want to play a lot better on the defensive end of the floor, to be able to do that.
All right. D-Wade says it's just the first game, but how about this for a little-known fact about his teammate LeBron? LeBron James has never won the opening game of an NBA playoff series on the road. Not really a big deal. Seven-time champion. Between the Cavs and the Heat, LeBron's teams are now 0-7 when he has played game 1 of a playoff series on the road. Interesting little tidbit here. We welcome back our coach. We asked you this question. How much pressure is on the Heat to win game 2?
Well, I think there's pressure because Miami wants it to be a balanced type of series. If you go down 0-2, it becomes a very unbalanced type of series, and there's a psychological and mental momentum that comes with that. They would then have to go back to Miami and win 2 games, as where I think if they get game 2, they understand it's probably going to be a long series, but it's at least a balanced and there's an equilibrium to it that I think psychologically in between days is important to a basketball team. So I think LeBron and Miami will be possessed. They will play at a high level to try to get that game tomorrow. But the thing that bothered me about game 1 was the adjustments are big adjustments. Mm-hmm. They're not little adjustments. I mean, anytime you kind of in a game and you lose by a guy making a great shot or a tough call or a banked in 3, you can then say little adjustments. We can make this, and then the intensity and enthusiasm and the pride of the moment can push you over the top. They were controlled in this game. They were, I hate to use the word, but dominated in this game in a lot of areas that are very important to NBA basketball. In the paint, power basketball, pick and roll game, freely passing the ball, the free throw line. They were dominated in these situations. So how you make those adjustments, I think, are bigger than I feel comfortable with, and I think it's going to be very interesting. It's great TV. It's great coaching TV for me because I think there's a coaching part of this game. It'll be interesting.
What would be your primary fix if you were coaching this team?
They got to get some defense into the game. Yeah. I mean, their defense was atrocious, and they rely upon some offense from their defense. So I think aggressiveness on the pick and rolls. They were soft. Their whole team was soft. Physically, they were soft, but on the pick-and-roll defense, they didn't get active on the ball. It seemed like Indiana had a plan, and they controlled the plan by just letting the defense come, throw over the top. They put George and Stevenson in the pick-and-roll 90% of the time. Hill did not run many pick-and-rolls, and what they wanted the big guard to throw over the top of the defense, and they were very effective on it. And defensively, no one gives Hill, Stevenson, and George. Those are 3 first-class defenders. Right. They're first-class NBA individual defenders. And defense starts with controlling the basketball. And right now, Miami doesn't control the ball. You know, Chalmers, Dwayne Wade, Ray Allen, unless you put LeBron on the ball, they don't control the ball. And I think Indiana controlled the ball from the very beginning of a possession, which is extremely valuable in setting up your concepts. And I think right now, Indiana defensively is actually ahead of Miami in the series.
Wow. Stephen A.
Well, there's nothing that's wow about that, Skip Bayless. Indiana is an elite defensive team. They play defense. I think you can rely on that. What's the wow? Where the wow factor kicks in is that all 5 of their starters scored in double figures, and their offense looked efficient, which is an aberration compared to what we've normally seen them look like over the last 2.5 months. I think we all should pump the brakes and wait for Game 2 before any kind of panic is allowed to set in. The Miami Heat's mission is to win one of these games in Indy, claim home court advantage, and then see what happens then, even though Indiana has been better in these playoffs on the road than they've actually been at home. But in the end, they know that they're big, they're physical, and they want Miami badly. They've wanted Miami badly. It was tough for them to get up for Atlanta and Washington. It's not tough for them at all to get up for Miami. They're antsy about it. This is the matchup they've wanted. And if Miami has anything to worry about, they're going up against a bunch of piranhas right now, because what you have in the Indiana Pacers is not a team that just wants to win, but wanted to go through Miami in order to do it. And when you're a champion and you've put as much mileage on your body as the Miami Heat have put on their bodies and going to 3 consecutive NBA Finals, and you're going up against a team who is bigger and more physical than you, plus they're starving to go up against you, you've got to bring your A game in order to take them out based on sheer energy that they're bringing to the table alone. That's what Miami has to concern itself with. That's what they're going to have to answer for. You can't have Roy Hibbert and David West pushing you around for the entire series. You're going to have to answer that bell. You can answer Paul George, you can answer Lance Stevenson, you can answer George Hill, but you gotta find a way to answer those big boys in order to pull this series out, because if not, that's what's going to make it tough for Miami more than anything else.
So, Mr. Smith, the wow factor for me was that the Pacers yesterday suddenly resembled a Pacers team we had not seen for almost 2 months. Why was that?
That's true.
Because the Miami Heat fell into a trap that I'm sure you've had a team fall into before. Nobody gave the Pacers much of a shot to win. Did anybody pick the Pacers to win this series? Nobody did. And nobody should have, because they didn't deserve to be picked to win this series. Stephen A. was making the case, you know, they should maybe just go on home and after a couple of those games in the previous rounds, and you're right.
Actually, that was you.
No, I think, well, maybe both of us did. But the point was...
I gave him 2 games.
Yeah, well, the point was the Heat just mailed it in yesterday. I didn't see any energy. I didn't see any electricity. I didn't see the possess that you talked about that you might see in Game 2. I think we will see that, because this team can be electric on defense. I saw it in the 4th quarter of the closeout game against the Nets, where if they decide, they can jump that pick and roll like crazy, and they will do it in the next game. But they didn't do it in this game, and Indiana's confidence, even at home, is fragile right now. And what happened? They let George Hill stand out there with the first shot of the game and make a 3-point shot. They let George Hill attempt 3 3-pointers in the first quarter and make all 3 of them. You can't do that, because all of a sudden Roy Hibbert's going to be emboldened to say, wait, maybe we got this. Maybe we got these guys on the ropes here. They give up 30 points to the scoring challenge Pacers in the first quarter. Are you kidding me? And 55 at half and 107 for the game? That's not Miami basketball, is it? That they didn't resemble themselves yesterday on defense. And that's just effort to me.
The quandary I think Miami has is, do they go big? Because if they go big, they throw away their flow and their efficient offense when they play Bird and Bosh together. But I think if they play Bird and Bosh together, they might be able to figure out how to beat Indiana, or at least control the paint and control the power game of Hibbert and West. But in the same sense, Miami this year has become energized by their offense, by making steals and dunking the ball and getting to the rim and making the 3. I mean, they've been more of an offensive team than a defensive team. They still, I think, have the character to be a good defensive team. But they, as you say, this was not a bad performance. It was one of the worst you've ever seen Miami play.
I agree.
I mean, statistically, everything was.
And that's exactly why I'm not worried. Because when it comes to Miami, you're not going to see them put forth back-to-back awful performances. They just have too much pride for that. I'm not saying they can't lose game 2, but it's not going to be in a fashion that they lost game 1. One of the things I want to modify, Coach, in front of you, because I had mentioned this earlier, I talked about them going big, and I talked about them having Greg Oden, activating him, having a Greg Oden with the Birdman or Udonis Haslem on the court together to offset the size that Indiana's going to throw at you. But I didn't mean to imply when I talked about Ray Allen, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James, I didn't mean to omit Chris Bosh. I think Chris Bosh is somebody as opposed to a Ray Allen, for example. I'm just talking about guys that you have on the floor at some chunk period of time just so they could have their size as a factor themselves. I think Chris Bosh can do a little damage for you even as that third wheel on the front line, simply because he can hit threes even though he didn't do that yesterday. And at the same time, you're going to have some guys down there that'll limit Indiana to one shot. That's the key here. I don't blame Miami for assuming that Indiana wasn't going to be able to make shots, because Indiana was struggling throughout the postseason to make shots. I'm quite sure Miami was shocked at how George Hill came out shooting and Paul George came out shooting. Even though Lance Stevenson, I love his heart. He talked it and he backed it up. But you don't expect them to see them be that proficient offensively. So if you're Miami, you make that adjustment. Go big. But you also got guys like a Chris Bosh who can hit perimeter shots, and let LeBron and D. Wade be your guards, and let the other guys come off the bench and do it that way. I think against Indiana, it calls for you to go bigger.
By the way, Stephen A. Smith, or Stephen Naismith, if memory serves, didn't one morning you say that you're done with the Pacers? I just remember something about you saying I'm done with them.
Well, what I said to you, Skip, is I am done with them. I couldn't believe how awful they looked, especially getting blown out at home by Washington, getting blown out by Atlanta. I'm like, who is this team? But at the same time, if you come out and you win it, because remember, I'm still not sold on them winning game 2. I think Miami takes game 2. But if Indiana wins game 2, we now have ourselves a series, because Miami has to win 4 of the next 5 games in order to win this series. You remember, 14 matchups. They've split 7-7 over their last 14 encounters together. Even when Indiana was sticking up the joint in the regular season, they still managed to beat Miami. I believe it was like March 26th. That was one of the games they managed to win. So you look at this kind of stuff and you say, Miami just brings the best out of these guys. And that's what you take from it.
So, Coach, can you see any way that Indiana figures out how to win this series?
I can.
You can?
I can. Okay. I think the difficulties that Miami has, and this miraculous, magical moment where Indiana, who looked like they were totally broken, I think David West has done a great job of bringing this team back together. I don't know what's going on in that locker room for the last 6 weeks, but I know it's ugly. It was ugly. And David West in Game 6 stood up like a man, says, give me the ball. I want to end this series. I want to do it like a pro. I want to do it responsibly. And he did. He played a basketball game I've never seen David West play. He played. He wanted the ball in his hands all the time. He took a lot of shots where he's not a high volume shooter. But he said, I'll win this game if you give me the ball. And I think since that, there has been this professionalism that's come back to the Pacers, as where they were looking like a bunch of immature egomaniacs for most of the season. They now, Stevenson looked poised and controlled yesterday. George Hill looked like he knew he had to outplay Chalmers. He didn't have to be great, but he outplayed Chalmers, which is probably a key. If he outplays Chalmers, they have a good chance of having another matchup that's good for him. And then George and LeBron, that's going to, LeBron's better, we know that. But George can challenge him. And now he might have the confidence to do that, as where a month ago none of us thought he had that confidence to do that. And the bigs are point blank they're better, bigger, stronger, and right now more confident than the bigs. Bosh doesn't like this game. I don't care what you say. He doesn't like playing in this type of game. And I'll be honest with you, Birdman, who had a fantastic game yesterday, he doesn't like to play in the push and shove and grind game either. So I think Miami has some questions that got to be answered. I'll give Stephen the due. I think Miami will show up and we'll have a chance. But it's not now definitively Miami's going to win the series.
It's not a cakewalk for him.
That's strong stuff from Coach Carl.
Spurs in 7, so says Coach Carl. And then here you're making a case that Indiana could possibly take the series?
Beginning of the series, I thought this was going to be a short series. I thought Miami was going to be a short series. Now I think it's a long series.
All right. There was a fight this weekend. Juan Manuel Marquez dominated Mike Alvarado on Saturday, and now an offer is on the table to fight Manny Pacquiao again. If he chooses to accept the challenge, promoter Bob Arum said the fight would be in China in November, making it the 5th in a series between the two that has now spanned over more than 10 years. Wow, a decade. Stephen A., that's a long time. Would you want to see Marquez, Manny, Part 5?
Well, I don't want to see anything more than I want to see Pacquiao and Mayweather. I was actually glad that Mayweather wasn't on his A game when his last fight, because I think there's something to be said about realizing that the promotional part of things are taxing and it wears on you and it can interfere with you being on your A game. He clearly was distracted. But when I look at Marquez, I don't blame Marquez one bit, because that's the money fight for him. He fights Pacquiao fresh off of knocking out Pacquiao. Then that's a mega fight for him, and he deserves those dollars. And obviously, Pacquiao having to go back in the ring against him and seeing the man that put him to sleep and made him comatose for a little while. I definitely think that that's something that would have an effect on Pacquiao as well. So it's not the match we should all want to see for Pacquiao, but it is second on the list, and there's nothing wrong with that. Normally I get tired of the trilogy is the most, but considering what happened to Pacquiao in their last meeting, I definitely think it warrants another fight there.
I define comatose.
You know, I warned you early in the show that as the unofficial mayor of San Antonio, that if you were at all disrespectful or you stepped out of bounds, I would have you arrested in my city of San Antonio, where you are right now. And to say that Manny Pacquiao was comatose, but comatose, he was out for like 30 seconds. He was standing in the ring 30 seconds later doing a completely
I have no recollection of that. I have no recollection
comatose?
of that.
Comatose? Carrie just looked it up.
I have no recollection of that.
Coma? Lacking alertness or energy.
I might have you arrested.
I don't know.
I might.
I just saw him on his face.
I
just saw him on his face with his hands by his side. That's what I saw.
So that seems like it's
when everybody's screaming.
Comatose.
Yes.
And then they're showing the video.
Oh, comatose. Okay.
The comatose.
That's what I saw.
He was playing chess an hour after the fight with his
Manny,
friend.
are you okay?
He's fine. He is perfectly fine. I do not want to see Manny and Marquez fight for a 5th time, even though they have been a great matchup. Look, every fight has been very close. Marquez knows how to fight Manny, I think, in ways that Floyd wouldn't be able to deal with Manny. Manny would beat Floyd now pretty easily. But Marquez, at 41 years of age, I don't want to see it again, even though he's savvy enough to know his way around the ring against Manny Pacquiao. I want to see Floyd pick up the phone and call my man Manny Pacquiao and say, here's the deal, let's do it whenever, next fall. Let's just do it before we're too old and we're like De Niro and Stallone in Grudge Match, you know, they're like in their 70s fighting each other. I want to see it now, because I think the public would still buy it. If we have to wait another revolution of this while Floyd fights Timothy Bradley again, or Danny Garcia, or whoever it is, I don't want to do it. I don't want to see it anymore.
I think Floyd is tired, and I think he's bored. Because he's so superior, I think he needs Pacquiao just to remain interested. Because people like you will be talking junk about what Pacquiao is going to do to him, and Floyd will get up and go like, have they forgot who I am? And then Floyd would sit
I
up
have
there.
forgotten.
I mean,
Who is he?
It's criminal what Floyd would do to him.
It's criminal
Floyd
that
would
he's
pick
avoiding
Manny Pacquiao.
He's
Oh,
running
please.
from him.
And
That's what's
Marquez,
criminal right now.
And Marquez,
Floyd.
poor Marquez. I mean, please.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Marquez ain't even. Look, don't be disrespectful
Oh,
to Floyd.
boy.
I keep telling you that. Stop
I'm
that.
calling him
But
out.
Marquez can't touch Floyd. That's the problem. If Marquez was interested, I mean, did you see? He didn't win a round against Floyd. Floyd just toyed with him.
As you
But I'm
well
just
know,
saying, I mean,
because
what
you
he did
know,
to Pacquiao,
I give
come
you a
on,
little
man.
bit of knowledge on boxing, that matchups make the fight. So Marquez is a great matchup for Manny, and Marquez is not a great matchup for Floyd.
Okay.
But Manny would be a perfect matchup for Floyd Mayweather because he's as quick as Floyd, and he's a little stronger, a lot stronger than Floyd.
Stronger.
PEDs or none. Maybe he's got none now. I don't care. Even at his advanced age, he's a more powerful puncher than Floyd. It's a lethal combination for Floyd. Quickness, savvy, and punching power. And we know Floyd can't punch his way out of a paper bag.
Oh,
Never
boy.
has been able to.
Okay.
Please. Floyd would pick Manny apart.
Yeah,
Manny,
other way around.
Manny would be looking like Floyd would literally. I'm trying to tell you right now. Pacquiao would be standing there. Damn, I thought I knew how to box.
Oh, boy.
I mean, I really did. I don't understand this. I thought I knew how to box. Please.
So how do you
Floyd will pick
explain
him
that your
apart.
man?
I hope Floyd calls him.
You
I
know
hope
what?
Floyd calls him. I really do.
How do you explain that your man Floyd continues to run and run and run from Manny Pacquiao? How do you explain it?
He ain't running. Bob Arum. That's how I
No.
explain it. Get Bob Arum out of the
Don't
way.
make
And
excuses.
Floyd will
Don't put
fight
it on
Pacquiao.
Arum. Put it on Floyd.
Neither of the
It's
gentlemen
the
are
truth.
excited
It happens to be the
about
truth.
Marquez Pacquiao Part 5. We'll leave it there. We're waiting for the real fight. The fight that you think Manny will win and he says Floyd will win.
I know Manny will win.
Oh.
And so does Floyd know, and so he
Manny,
runs and runs
are
and
you
runs.
okay?
I don't know
Yeah,
what that means.
Manny's
That's all
fine.
I want to know.
Manny, are you?
Yeah.
He was playing chess
Are
Stephen
you
A. according to
okay,
Skip
Manny?
Bayless.
An hour after the fight, he's playing chess.
Okay.
Back in his suite.
Back in his suite, just hanging out, having a good time. For Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith, I'm Carrie Champion. Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can catch First Take Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN2.
The next big thing. The next new kid. The next overnight sensation. The next rookie. One to watch. The next Hall of Famer. The next Intimidator. The next six-time. The next king. Next. 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 Who's next? Let's find out. Names are made here. The History 300 at Charlotte. Saturday at 2:30 Eastern on ABC.